grandmother and no electricity.
So Jeeves has no Facebook page.
Jeeves does not. In fact, he's completely illiterate, and the Republican Party has begun grooming him for a possible candidacy in 2036.
All right. Well, at least there's someone. Thank you, Jason Copeland.
Thanks, Andrea.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to the Monday episode of the program. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Bonnie.
We weren't planning on doing a live show here tonight, but as I mentioned last night, we're kind of the fallback crew because most of the Free Talk Live crew is supposed to be going up to the Porcupine Freedom Festival this week, and from what I understand, they are there. I heard this through the rumor mill because I'm still not allowed to talk to Aria DeMezzo, who is our main engineer there on site, because I'm on some ridiculous bail conditions that have yet to be loosened, which we've put a motion in, 2 weeks, maybe going on 3 weeks ago. At this point, we're basically just waiting for a woman in a robe, the very same one who denied me bail 3 months ago or whatever it was, who said she was going to do it expeditiously.
It
make
took
a decision.
3 weeks or more to do it.
Yeah, she took 3 weeks to make a decision on bail, which was to deny it.
I guess it might take about 3 weeks to sign the signature.
Yeah, I guess that's like the typical length of time it takes things. So we're still waiting on that. So meanwhile, we kind of have to
have your First Amendment rights infringed as the higher-up judge agreed.
Correct. And so who knows when that's going to happen. Meanwhile, the crew is there at the campground. I've heard that Aria has arrived. Matt, our Wednesday night co-host, is there. And actually, we're hoping to hear from Matt tonight because, again, Aria can't call in because then she'd be talking
Thursday
to me.
night. Yeah, Matt's Thursday
Oh,
night.
Thursday. Thank you for that. Yep. And so he may be calling in tonight with a report from the campground. From what I understand, it's very, very busy this year compared to previous years. It is a record-setting or expected to be a record-setting. I guess it's technically already record-setting because they've already sold out all of the tickets. So presuming most of those people actually show up, it will be a record year for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. But unfortunately, the broadcast system there is not quite ready to go. Hopefully, they will be doing a show there starting tomorrow, and they will be there live. Or not live, but they'll be recording a show every single night. So in the meantime, we will talk to you, and our phones are open at 202-380-3699 should you wish to join the program with me and Bonnie. So 202-380-3699. I've got some news to discuss here, Bonnie, and you're the most recent person who's been in college.
Out of us two?
Yeah, out of the two of us. I think probably out of all of the co-hosts on
Yeah, but
Free
you
Talk
graduated.
Live. I graduated from a 2-year AA or Associates in Arts degree, which is basically they call community college like high school with cigarettes. It really wasn't a big deal, but it was ultimately a waste of time because I wish I could have done something else with that time and not driven to school while falling asleep on more than one occasion, possibly running off the road and ending my or somebody else's life.
Oh my God.
Luckily that didn't happen. But I wish I could have done something else with that time, like sleep in. Because ultimately it was a total waste of time. It didn't cost that much money because I had gotten a scholarship from the state of Florida in that case. So ultimately my tax money paid for the college, but still it's a useless thing. Having that degree is completely pointless. But you were there most recently, although you did an online college, right?
Well, yeah, they were forcing me to only go online because it was during 2020. And when I first started enrolling, it wasn't going to be like that. Then all of a sudden in March, I was supposed to take some classes that were supposed to help me get ready for the math portion of the easiest math class you start taking.
You were going to take classes to get ready for the math
It's
class?
called a math refresher. You take it. It's like not a class really. It's like a 2-week-long thing.
Is that because you tested below whatever level you needed to have or something like that?
For math, yeah. I tested almost perfect in English and writing, and then below average for math.
Were you never good at math in school?
Actually, I was totally fine at math in middle school and high school, but
Did you do algebra?
Yeah, but I just haven't had to practice it at all in the real world. Why would I need to actually
and you've been out of high school for a few years
and I've
before
been
you
out
started
of high school
college.
for 6 years, I think now, or 5.
So things got a little rusty.
6.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes
so
sense.
anyways, I was about to do this math refresher class, and all of a sudden COVID stuff started happening. This was like March, and they canceled that, and it took forever for them to get it back up for me to take even online. And then all my classes in the fall, which I was going to start doing in the summer, but so much stuff was just too confusing because I didn't have like a counselor to go talk to, and even the colleges were confused, like what's going on, or we don't really know what we're going to do yet, and all this stuff. So I just kind of like, I don't know, I was doing it all myself. So I didn't go in the summer, I went in the fall, all online, and I dropped out the first semester because I was just like, I could do this. I could learn the same stuff on YouTube, and it's basically like learning on YouTube to have a teacher on the computer. And also, like, I don't know, I was going for IT. Why would I really need a degree for that? I mean, I could teach myself online and just start getting jobs or like certificates. And
Right, the certificates are what people look for when it comes to getting a job, from what I understand. I mean, I've never done it, but I know people who have.
Also, I hate jobs like that. Why would I want to do that? I don't really know what I was thinking.
That's true with a lot of college students, is they just join the college because they were expected to. Now, you're different because you actually put a few years in between high school and college. Usually they just go right from high school into college with no real clue as to what they want to do, and a significant portion of college students actually change their major more than once, from what I understand. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but it was like, when I remember when I saw it years ago, I was shocked at how many college students, they don't really know what they want to do. They just sign up because they've been told that it's a good idea, and then they just kind of go through the motions and ultimately change their major like 2 or 3 times or something like that.
Yeah.
How much time is that wasted for
Yeah.
them?
Whenever I was in high school, I was a valedictorian of my class,
Oh, wow.
and I was going to go
That
to
means you're really smart, right?
Well, I am really smart.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Well, I was going to go to school to be an accountant is what I thought. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And then like I was like, I guess I'll just take like a year off and work or something. For some reason, like in that time, I was just like, yeah, I don't want to go to college. So I mean, even just making a decision on what I wanted to do at all has changed so many times in the, I guess now 6 years that I've been out of high school.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things that a young person can do, is to take some time off from the whole schooling rigmarole, this gauntlet of never-ending government-mandated education or government highly encouraged education, and just stop and take some time out for themselves. If you don't know what you want to do, don't load up on $50,000 or $100,000 worth of debt. Like that's some of the worst financial decisions you'll ever make in your entire life, and you'll literally be paying for it for your entire life. And maybe that's a reason why, according to Chron.com, the Houston Chronicle, maybe that's a reason why college students, according to the story, actually this is Washington Post they're citing, are feeling more anxious and depressed as they sleep less and spend more time on their phones, as though young people couldn't spend more time. I mean, you see them constantly on phones, and even older people as well.
He's making fun of me.
Researchers said well, you're not particularly anxious. I don't get that from you.
Just that I'm always on my phone.
Right. Researchers said after spending 4 years monitoring the behaviors of young people, Dartmouth College, that's here in New Hampshire, researchers began tracking 217 students when they entered the school as freshmen in 2017. Now, Dartmouth College is one of these Ivy League, quote-unquote, schools. Like, this is top tier. This is one of the best schools. It's a medical college. This is where, I'm sure they have other curricula, but it's a medical college, right?
Isn't it in Lebanon?
Yeah, it's right nearby there. I think it's in like the town next door or something like that. And so that's what they call the Upper Valley. It's about an hour and 15 minutes north of here in Keene, New Hampshire, where we're broadcasting this show. So fancy college. This isn't your typical state college or university or whatever. This is Dartmouth College. This is up there with like Yale, right? So these students that they're tracking, this is the upper echelon of students too, right? Like, this isn't your average kid that wants to go and become a teacher. These are likely people who are on a track to become some sort of medical professional. That's my understanding of the college. They've got like a very, very renowned medical school there. It's not cheap to go to Dartmouth College. You would think that people on that sort of a track of becoming like a doctor, which is actually a thing that you do need to go to college for still, because there's a lot of stuff that college is a total waste of time. But this is something that you're not going to get any work if you don't go to college. You'd think that they would be, I don't know, more sure of themselves, more interested in school and applying themselves. But nonetheless, they've been tracked, and they have been very stressed out and anxious and depressed.
I don't know. I think the opposite. I think it makes sense that they would be more anxious and depressed because they have a lot of stuff to do and it's really serious. And everyone I know who goes to school for medical school ends up changing, like, oh, no, I'm just getting a major in business or something.
202-380-3699 if you want to weigh in here on college students and this anxiety that seems to just riddle young people these days. More coming up.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The number to join us on the radio, it's 202-380-3699. That's 202-380-3699. With you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Ian.
And Bonnie.
Talking about a story out of Lebanon, New Hampshire, which includes the Dartmouth College, very high-end college that did a study on some of their own students that found that 217 students were tracked when they entered the school as freshmen in 2017. In the hopes of understanding how they behave, they saw students' stress levels rise and fall, usually in tandem with midterm and final exams. But since the onset of the pandemic, quote unquote, rates of depression and anxiety have soared and show no signs of coming down, said Andrew Campbell, researcher and computer science professor. The research points to how the public health crisis, they say, is affecting young people and raises questions about what will be done to support them, a group that struggled disproportionately with mental health issues for years before the pandemic set in. The question is, how long will they stay like this, said the researcher. The findings also added to a growing body of research that indicate the effects of the coronavirus have extended beyond physical health and safety, particularly as people deal with social isolation, grief, unemployment, and uncertainty about the future. Now, a friend of the show, former co-host Vincent, who is the host of Questioning Authority and Shire Free Media, and he's still out there doing his show over on the Shire Free Media channel on DLive 3 times a week. He'll be doing his last live Questioning Authority on LRN.FM on Saturday night at 10 p.m. He's going to move to a podcast-only situation on LRN, but he lives up near Dartmouth College, so he's kind of been following the restrictions. Not only what's been going on with the college here in Keene, because that's where he went to school, but also since he's in town with Dartmouth, he can kind of keep an eye on what's been going on there.
Oh, that makes sense why the town he lives in is so COVID restriction crazy still.
Because it's a college town?
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and he says that apparently he's living in an area where they're still cracking down, unlike even liberal Keene, New Hampshire, where they've loosened up and the mask mandate apparently went away a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I thought he lived kind of in the middle of nowhere in the mountains up in New Hampshire. That's why I was kind of confused about why.
He lives like a couple towns over, so he's not right next to the college, or maybe he's like in the town next to the college.
The area.
He's in the woods for sure, but he's not like in the college proper. So he's been able to follow what's been going on there with the various different rules and restrictions. And like every other college out there, Dartmouth College has had tremendous lockdown kind of restrictions. Students at this college have been unable to, socialize with one another.
Have the fun parts of going to college type of experience.
Yeah, all that's gone. That's all been taken out. That was what was happening here in Keene was you weren't allowed to gather with other college students during like the weekends. It used to be that the weekends were, of course, party time for college students. And now if you were caught like going to a party, you'd be expelled from the college. If you're even caught walking around downtown Keene, or in this case, Hanover, or whatever the town is, Lebanon, if you're caught as a college student without a mask on, you will be disciplined, possibly lose whatever money that you've given to the college and kicked out. So it was already a stressful situation. And now, you add to that the fact that you have no real way, at least openly, of dealing with that stress. Now, I'm not saying that drinking heavily is a good idea.
But socializing is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it also just makes it like more like, why am I doing this? I could be out, like some of my other friends who didn't go to college are out having fun and all this stuff, and I'm here being bored,
Where they're literally forced to be in their college dorm room. If you're not in class, which of course a lot of them were remote classes, you had to be in your college dorm room or in whatever other authorized places you were allowed to be.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one thing that actually made college lamer for me and led to me deciding to drop out was I went to, it was just a community college, but it was going to be, I was kind of excited to actually go to the college because I was living in San Antonio and I would be like going to Main Street where San Antonio College was, which is where like all the fun gay bars were. I thought it'd be so fun to like be walking there.
You'd have an excuse to go to do some fun stuff.
Yeah, and also just to meet people there, and it's just cute. And I was like, now I'm just sitting in my stupid apartment doing my classes instead. That's lame.
Yeah, in your case, you could walk away from it because you were just, like you said, you were going for an IT career, and that's all that information is online, and all of the IT careers have to do with certifications. A lot of the people who are hiring in that business, they want to see your, Microsoft certification or whatever the other, I know there's other ones out there, the other certifications, they want to see those. They don't really care that much, a lot of them, about a college degree. So you could walk away from it. But if you really want to be a doctor,
Yeah.
you have to stay in this. And not only that, the medical establishment is in a certain way about COVID, right? So like you can't break from the medical establishment either and have a different opinion and I imagine get through college either. So like even if you believe that COVID isn't that dangerous, which is of course what the evidence seems to suggest, even the evidence provided by the government, you can't say anything about that. You couldn't possibly like write a report that was contrary to the CDC provisions. So you are not only being locked down physically, but you're also being locked down mentally. You couldn't possibly stray from whatever the government-approved curriculum is in this way.
Sounds like it's like meant for a certain type of person to go to medical school. No offense to anybody who likes going to medical or likes medical field, but I've never been into that because it just seems so like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to do the actual jobs that are involved because they're so like, that takes over your whole life. If you're like a nurse or something. Like
but you really have to love it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine loving being obedient to the government and having to do whatever it is that they say in order to get a job. Like now, I've heard a lot of these hospitals are requiring their employees to get vaccines.
I know that happened in Houston.
So the findings add to a growing body of research, they say here. Again, these students dealing with anxiety and experiencing symptoms of depressive episodes, they've had increases in that. Surprise, surprise, because, well, again, they can't socialize. Researchers at Dartmouth gathered data through a mobile app that the local computer guy that was developing this helped develop called Student Life, which sits in the background of the user's phone and collects information on their location, phone usage, sleep duration, and sedentary behavior. So the phone knows if you're sitting down, right? It can detect if you're walking.
Oh, so this is part of the
right?
study?
Yeah.
Okay.
The program also delivered weekly assessments so students could give updates on their mood and stress levels. Now, of course, just as a general statement, not just looking at college students, but a lot of people put on weight during the COVID pandemic because they were at home instead of going to work. They weren't walking anywhere because in a lot of cases they weren't allowed to. So rather than spending their extra time exercising at home, they spent their extra time, eating food
Playing
or
video
whatever,
games.
playing video games. And combine that with increased stress levels, you got a real
healthy.
nasty situation. The researchers then compared the data with the general public's online search habits and found students reported higher levels of stress as people were seeking information about COVID fatigue. A strong correlation between the search term and certain behaviors, such as increased phone usage, helped define the phenomenon and explain how COVID fatigue affects mental health outcomes. And if you were experiencing this or still are and you want to express yourself, you want to share your thoughts with us, or maybe you know somebody who has, 202-380-3699 is our number. It's Ian and Bonnie here on Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for Forkfest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow Forkfesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the Forkfest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. The number may not be working. There's some. We've been going through some difficulties with it. But if you want to try our new SIP option, S-I-P, it is an internet method of calling in that should be working fine, but it does take a little bit to set it up and make sure that your client's working correctly. I've got a set of instructions that are over at freetalklive.com. It's the first article on the page, so if you want to jump through those hoops and call in with SIP, you can reach us at the address that you'll find at freetalklive.com. Again, first article as you look down the page. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
Also, Free Talk Live brought to you by Bitcoin.com. If you want to learn about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin.com can help you with that. And you can just click on the Get Started section of the site, and you'll learn the basics about crypto, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And there's no better time than now, especially with the price down. Earlier today, I think the price right now here is right now it's below $32,000 per Bitcoin.
It's on sale.
It sure seems like it, considering that it peaked at over $60,000 earlier this year.
And earlier this week, it was at like 38.
Yeah, I think it was just yesterday or the day before. So, you never know. It may continue to go down, but if you can afford to get into a little bit, it might not be a terrible idea. Learn more about it first, though. Never jump into something before you've actually done some due diligence and taken the time to really kind of have a grasp over some of the new concepts that are involved. Bitcoin.com can help you do that. If you're not brand new to crypto, then you can get the latest news headlines about cryptocurrency over on their news website, and that's news.bitcoin.com. As we continue here, we're talking about college students and their difficulties. Now, they've already been this sort of anxious, depressed bunch, and now it's even worse than it's ever been. Bonnie, you have been around a lot of young people. You're still pretty young yourself. Would you say that there's a lot of people that you know that like to claim that they have anxiety?
Yeah, like everyone that I know.
It's everyone.
Pretty much.
Everyone your age, basically, right?
Like 95%.
It was never like that when I was growing up.
It's really weird.
Like, I never heard the term anxiety in any sort of meaningful, like, I have this thing sort of sense until the last maybe 15 years, 20
It's
years.
weird. I think I never started doing that because, I mean, it's not that I don't think it's real. It's not like I'm one of those people who are like, it's completely all in your head and you're just doing it for attention. It's not like that, but I do think that if you claim it for yourself, then yeah, you're going to start acting like that a lot more.
You own it.
You own it.
Right.
Like, I have anxiety. Oh, I can't handle driving into a city. Oh, I can't handle this. That's
Then
how
you
you're going to
can't.
start acting. Yeah, then you can't.
That's what you call a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I think that I never really did that because, like, in high school, my sister started, like, acting really anxious and saying she had anxiety, and I've just always kind of done the opposite of everything my sister does. I don't know, I just really didn't want to have, like, I really didn't want to be like that for some reason.
She wasn't a role model. She was like a counter role model,
Yeah.
basically. She was everything you didn't want to be.
Yeah, in high school for some reason, I don't know why. And, like, as a child, I was always like that with her, but for whatever reason, I never started doing that.
Good.
So I don't know, I can do whatever I want to do. Like, I drove from San Antonio to Maine.
That's such a better outlook on things, is that you and people used to think that way. People used to be taught, hey, look, whatever you apply your mind to, you can become. And from what I've seen, that's still true about the world. That is the way life is. It's just people have been, and maybe this is a bigger, deeper plot against humanity by the elites who are trying to and have been very successful at indoctrinating people and controlling them. Maybe,
Yeah, you can't do this yourself. You need the government to help you.
or some expert or whatever.
You need the experts to help you.
Yeah, and that is a very disempowering belief system. And what you say about yourself is inevitably what is true about yourself. You can start telling a different story immediately. Like every day, you can create yourself anew. I know that sounds hard to believe, right? And it may not be something that you can do immediately, but it's something that you can start working towards. I mean, you would have to be like a master at life to be able to snap your fingers and go from being, let's say, a completely negative person who's always angry and doesn't believe in themselves to being a positive person who's always, looking forward to the future and does believe in themselves. That's a tough change.
I think
to
everybody
through.
goes in kind of like, maybe not everybody because you're pretty constant, but everybody, I mean, most people kind of go in waves of that. Like maybe they'll start realizing they're being depressed and then they'll be like, you know what, I'm going to get off my feet and like make today a positive day or whatever. But there are a lot of people who are just like, this is part of my brain chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm anxious and there's nothing I can do about it. So if I'm driving into the city and it's really, really busy, I'm going to like start crying and freaking out. I've seen this with my own eyes. That's why I'm using that as an example.
Right.
Like, oh my God, there's a lot of traffic. I need to pull over. Like I'm literally having an anxiety attack right now.
And I'm glad they're not on the road, in that case, because I certainly wouldn't want them to continue to drive in that case. But I think you're right. It is all in their head. And they don't want to believe that. And I've also known somebody like this. I'm not going to say who it is because that's irrelevant. But not that they had the driving issue, but that they believed that, like, depression, because the other side of this is depression. So that's what this article is about with the college students, is lots of anxiety, lots of depression, usually both within the same person. And the same thing about people who are constantly depressed is they believe that it is a chemical imbalance in their brain. And that's what people are told is, oh, well, you just have a chemical imbalance. You need to take this pill. How long do I need to take the pill? For the rest of your life.
It's not like it's impossible that you could have a chemical imbalance, but you could probably change it with your own mind.
Well, that's where I wanted to go with this. And we can get back to the story about the college students here in a moment. But the interesting thing about depression, at least, and I suspect you could do a similar study about anxiety, and it wouldn't surprise me if it had already been done, but I've seen that they did a placebo study on depression. And lo and behold, the little red sugar pill that, for listeners that don't know, placebo is just a sugar pill. It's just there's nothing there that could act. There's no chemical that could act on a person's alleged problem. But you tell the person, hey, this little red pill is going to cure your depression. And you know what? In a lot of cases, it does. It does cure their depression. So that is, to me, clear evidence that what we're dealing with here is a mind over matter kind of problem. And you can still show that information to a depressed person and they'll reject it.
And I don't care if there's somebody listening, like, getting all triggered because they're like, I have depression. No, I have depression. I have to take Zoloft or else I will literally not be able to survive. Like, my boyfriend was literally kidnapped from my house and I had just, like, no will to live for, like, weeks. Mm-hmm. And I, for some reason, thought of the words of Hannah Montana saying, don't stay down. And I was just like, you know what, Hannah Montana, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to not stay down. And I just didn't. I just made myself stop being depressed. Like, I was literally, like, not changing my sheets, like, eating Cheetos in bed and stuff like that.
Yikes.
I was really depressed when you first got kidnapped.
But you made a change.
I just decided
on how
to make
you
a
thought.
change. And, yep, it just worked. In fact, I was always, like, smiling and stuff like that. Like, we'd go to nightcaps and stuff, and I'd just be like, people would be asking me about you, and I'd be like, just like really positive about it. Like, I don't know when he's going to get out, but I know he's going to get out.
Yeah. And you, like I told you the other night, you helped me while I was in jail. I mean, I'm pretty good at staying positive, but, you know, when you're facing the rest of your life in prison and it can look a little dark, right? When you're up against this evil organization that, you know, they have no limit to the amount of money that they can spend, the amount of time they can spend to ruin your life and your friends' lives. You know, it can get difficult. I mean, I wouldn't say I was ever anything but generally positive, but sometimes the darkness rises a little bit, and to have you on the outside being positive was helpful for me too. The number here is 202-380-3699. Check out our SIP call options over at freetalklive.com. If you get the time, set that up. Give us a try there. You'll actually sound better, so it's worth the 10 minutes or whatever that it takes to get it set up. Then once you have it set up, it's like an instant way to call in. It's super easy. So if you want to comment on anxiety and depression, are you somebody who has been these things and has defeated them without the use of some sort of chemical? I want to hear from you tonight. This is Free Talk Live. We're broadcasting to you from the very first day of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, although we are not at it because, well, I'm not allowed to leave the house without government permission due to these insane bail restrictions. But there's a lot of people expected to be there this week, and from what I hear, there's already a bunch on the campground at Rogers Campground. More coming up. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
All right, Free Talk Live. Got some good news about the phone number. The 603 line is back.
Yay!
That's why the 202 number wasn't working earlier. I'd gotten information from our voice over IP provider that they were in the process of, they had actually gotten the number, we ported it over, and it was supposed to happen sometime today. I guess it happened right before the show, even though I haven't gotten the official word. We did just test out the old 603 number, and it's back. So 603-283-6160. If you've been trying to call the other number, the 202 number, it's not going to work. That number has been replaced completely by this 603 number. So I'm glad about that. I don't want to have a DC area code. I want to have a New Hampshire area code. And we used to have a toll-free number, but honestly, we don't have fewer calls on a long-distance number because I don't think anyone pays for long distance anymore. I mean, unless you have a really old landline phone or something, every cell phone plan basically includes free long distance. I mean, you've probably never paid for long distance in your life, have you, Bonnie?
Not that I know of.
Yeah. It's like a concept that is going to be lost to the past, and I think that's a good thing. So you can join the show. We've been talking about anxiety and depression, and the number here is 603-283-6160. Look, depression, as you pointed out, Bonnie, is a thing that I think all humans go through at some point in their lives. We've all had, I mean, if you've been around for long enough, you've had some sort of bad thing happen to you or a loved one that can throw you for a loop and put you into a real negative place mentally.
If you live in America, you probably suffer from depression from just the fact that you're literally a slave and you don't make as much money as you should be making.
Maybe they don't realize that's the reason why their depression exists. But yeah, if you're barely making ends meet, I could see that as being a pretty frustrating situation.
And 90% of your money is going into taxes, whether you realize it or not.
And those taxes are going to bomb innocent, peaceful people all around the world. That's a pretty depressing thing. I mean, there's a lot you can be depressed about.
People gaslighting you on the news about, the fact that your country's actually the best in the world and literally treats you and the rest of the world like crap.
So there are a lot of excuses to be depressed. And ultimately, I think we were both in agreement that I don't want to speak for you, but that we think that it's mental, that it's something that you can just make a decision. Now, it may not be an easy decision to make, especially if you've been programmed with the idea that you have some sort of imbalance, that it's a chemical thing. And look, I don't want to deny that that could be true for somebody out there. Maybe that really is true, that there are people out there who just cannot decide to be different about this. But I don't think that's the majority of them.
Me either.
At all. And I think there are some of them that do it for attention, that whether they do it consciously for attention or not, that's ultimately what they get out of it, right? Like if they say they're anxious or they say they're depressed.
You can't deny that that's a stimulant, a rewarding thing that some people would get out of their behavior. Like some people, like with BPD,
borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, they can't like accept that things are not that the bad things happening in their lives are their fault, and they want to keep going into this bad same cycle over and over. And like if they're getting attention for their bad behavior, even though it's bad, it's still
It encourages that.
It's an encouraging thing for them, like bad behavior.
Right. I mean, that's ultimately what children do.
Yeah,
right?
That's what like BPD basically is, like an eternal child.
An adult child.
Yeah.
Somebody who acts out because they know mom or dad is going to baby them or pay attention to them if they're acting out.
Yeah, I know somebody in my life with that, so that's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah. So again, going back to the idea that depression can actually be cured by a placebo suggests strongly that depression is all in your head. So we go back to this story about these college students who the study at Dartmouth University that they did over the last year, not just the last year, they started looking at the students in 2017. So when they first came to college, they were freshmen. They looked at them every single year. They have them carrying around a tracking device, their own, in this case, their phone, but with a specific app on it that the Dartmouth College, the guy that did the study, created called Student Life, or he helped develop this. It sits in the background of your phone, collecting information about where you are, what you're doing on your phone, how often, how many minutes or whatever seconds that you're spending on your phone every day, the amount of sleep that you're getting, and generally how sedentary the person is. And the phone, of course, can easily track this. It's got gyroscopes and compasses and, movement sensors, so it's easy to do. They compared the data that they received with the general public's online search habits, found that students reported higher levels of stress as people were seeking information about COVID fatigue. Quote, interest in COVID fatigue is a unique tool that allows us to understand how the quote-unquote new normal may be associated with poor mental health outcomes, said Dante Mack, the first author of the study. Campbell and Jeremy Huckins, a lecturer on psychological and brain sciences, said they noticed the beginnings of a behavioral shift last spring. Early findings published in June of last year saw students were more sedentary and visited fewer locations, because in many cases they weren't allowed to go to most places, than previously, an indication that they followed shelter-in-place guidelines implemented by state and local governments and their own college. Rates of anxiety and depression soared during the spring break of 2020, a time of year when students usually sleep more and report low levels of stress. Campbell and Huckins found these levels have yet to return to pre-pandemic normal, according to researchers. Before the pandemic set in, some students definitely were depressed or anxious, but on average, students weren't scoring high on either of these metrics. We have these massive changes in mental health and behavior due to COVID. We've never seen anything like that. No, let's blame what actually needs to be blamed.
The government.
It's the state and these state schools, these government systems and government schools. They are the ones who told people how to live, and also the obedience of people, of course. The people have been trained to do what they're told, have been trained to go along to get along, and so they obediently went along with whatever stupid restrictions were put on them, these arbitrary controls over their lives, and surprise, suicides are up.
And that's why like non-coercion is so important, because the real imbalance in these people's lives is their imbalance of just the freedom to do whatever they want to do with their lives that would make them happy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I brought up the government earlier. Like, people need to get out of this system, first of all, to decide to be happy. You can't live in a system where you literally are a slave to a war machine and just expect to never be depressed. And, oh, well, I'm just going to take a pill that will make me like a zombie and accept my fate as a slave to a war machine. Just start buying Bitcoin.
That's right out. Taking a pill to make yourself feel like you just described. I mean, that's right out of, historic fiction. Like, I guess 1984 didn't really have that. I guess they had the gin, right? We just finished.
Yeah, gin.
We just finished listening to 1984, and then Aldous Huxley.
Yeah, Brave New World.
Brave New World. It was Soma was the pill that the people were on to keep them happy.
There's one in The Giver too,
which we have yet to watch. Anyway, going on. We have these massive changes, he says, due to COVID. No, it's due to the crackdowns, and it's due to people's obedience. The research comes after a difficult year on the Dartmouth campus. 4 Dartmouth students died this school year, devastating the campus. No, they don't say how they died. Was it suicide? Because it certainly doesn't seem like that it was COVID. Like, if it was COVID, they would say due to COVID. They died because of COVID. No, they're not saying that. Devastating the campus of more than 4,400 undergraduates and sparking outrage among those who say the school's inadequate mental health resources are partially to blame. And here we go.
Wow, that makes it sound more like it was suicide.
Yeah, they actually get into it here. First-year student Beau Debray, there for his first year, died by suicide in November. Another freshman, Connor Tiffany, died, quote, unexpectedly in March. School officials said Elizabeth Reimer, also a freshman, died at her home in Holtsville, New York. And finally, junior Lamise Kareem died in April following complications with a medical condition unrelated to coronavirus. According to the college president, the college did not say how the other students died. Last month, several graffitied messages admonishing the administration's handling of what students have called a mental health crisis were found in 3 different locations on the campus, including the president's driveway.
I would agree that they don't need to be doing things to make the customers, aka the students at their schools' lives more miserable, and they don't need to be doing things to cause them to have bad mental health, but also you shouldn't be outsourcing your mental health hygiene to your college. That's so silly.
Well, to expect that they are going to help you when you're in need. I mean, these are the people who are telling you to put masks on. These are the people who are telling you to be obedient.
And to not be social.
The idea that they're going to all of a sudden be able to help you if you're feeling down and out, if you're feeling depressed, these are not the right people to turn to. I mean, if they put you on a pill, that's not going to make your life better, in my opinion. Your thoughts are welcome, though. Back to the old call-in line, 603-283-6160. Give that a shot here tonight. We did test it just a moment ago. It seemed like it was working. 603-283-6160. So that's in the news. And then related, these vaccinated people, some of them are still, quote, nervous, speaking of anxious people, about going back to normal. We can talk about that on the way. It's Free Talk Live. Hour 2's next.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
new plans. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The White House says it's revamping the way it will get COVID vaccines to countries that need them.
An additional 55 million doses have been set aside for global distribution, on top of 25 million that have already started going out. The president set an end-of-June goal of sharing 80 million shots, but the White House says red tape has delayed some deliveries. Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This has not, as you all know, been done before. Sometimes it's even language barriers that occur as we're working to get these doses out to countries.
Using the COVAX Sharing Alliance, 14 million doses will go to Latin America, 16 million to Asia, and 10 million for Africa. Another 14 million will be shared directly with nations around the world. At the White House, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
The Senate is now considering a measure that would automatically register people to vote and require 2 weeks of early voting. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted Republicans for opposing it.
It's not a vote on any particular policy. It's not a vote on this bill or that bill. It's a vote on whether the Senate should simply debate the issue of voting rights, the crucial issue of voting rights in this country.
Republican leader Mitch McConnell said it's a misconception that Republican-led states are trying to keep people of color and the poor from voting.
Remember, the last presidential election saw the highest voter turnout in decades, even amid a once-in-a-century pandemic. And African-American turnout was twice as high in Mississippi as it was in Massachusetts.
The vote in the Senate is expected tomorrow, though it's not expected to pass. The city of St. Louis and St. Louis County have filed a lawsuit seeking to block the state of Missouri's new law barring state and local authorities from enforcing federal gun laws. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer! But if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
A federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit against Harvard University filed by students demanding pandemic-related partial tuition refunds.
The federal judge in Boston says the 3 students leading the proposed class action lawsuit failed to show that Harvard was contractually obligated to provide in-person classes and access to campus during last spring's semester. That's when coronavirus shutdown started, and students had already paid for what they thought would be the normal Harvard experience. Also dismissed, a lawsuit brought by one of the students who paid full tuition last fall, knowing classes would be online, claiming he was coerced into it by the school. Chris Foster, Fox News.
Health officials in Canada say citizens who test negative for COVID will be exempt from 2 weeks of quarantine when returning to the country as of July 5th. The country's public safety minister says entry into Canada will remain restricted for foreigners traveling for non-essential reasons. Iran's new president has made his first address.
3 days after a landslide election victory, Iran's next president held a news conference. Ebrahim Raisi, a hardline former judge, was asked if he was ready to meet with President Biden and simply said no. And he insisted Iran's ballistic missiles and its support for militias overseas are non-negotiable. The president-elect is already under US sanctions for the mass execution of some 5,000 people 30 years ago. Questioned about that today, he described himself as a defender of human rights.
I just heard the best sales pitch I've heard in a long time on an airplane. The flight attendant announced, "If you paid more than $75 for your round-trip ticket, you overpaid." This is brilliant because everybody on the flight paid more, and I was struck by how all the road warriors stopped typing and reading and working and looked up. The announcement invited us to apply for the airline's credit card, and the sign-up bonus, enough frequent flyer miles for a free round trip. Talk about turning lemons into lemonade. With some banks offering free credit cards, $75 is an outrage for an annual fee, but a bargain for airline tickets. For more tips on communicating more effectively, hit survivalspeech.com, where you can see how I got the CEO of another major airline to shower me with freebies. I'm Holland Cook.
This is the Onion Week in Review.
Thousands of outraged meth addicts urged the federal government this week to address the nation's growing spider epidemic. During a marathon 72-hour meeting under the Roosevelt Bridge Monday, tweakers from across the nation drafted a 45,000-word proposal to kill all the acid-shooting spiders before they develop the powers of mind control or, God forbid, flight.
We can't grow the spiders any longer. The government has to... There's a spider there!
The addicts have agreed that the best temporary solution would be for the government to issue them large quantities of methamphetamine and steel wool. A local daddy was put in his bye-bye box Tuesday so that he could go on a long vacation with the birds and clouds in the sky. The daddy, who was once tall and strong and liked going to the hospital to play with their fun machines, was reportedly put in the bye-bye box after weeks of being sleepy all the time and never finishing his din-din. Family had come in from all over to watch daddy get dropped inside a cool underground fort full of dirt and sand, where he'll be tonight instead of being home to play Chutes and Ladders.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. We are back to the old phone number after having to switch a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was only like a week or so ago. The 202 number we had, that is no longer working. You can now go back to the previous one, 603-283-6160. And thanks for bearing with us on these changes. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio in beautiful Keene, New Hampshire, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
And at some point here tonight, we are expecting to get an update from the campground over at Rogers Campground. Beautiful, beautiful location. I wish I could go this year. Unfortunately, I am restricted from leaving the home. I can leave with permission of my probation officer, which is a funny thing to have as someone who's not been convicted of anything. But nonetheless, I'm here with an ankle monitor on
It's just home detention. Just like they told me when I asked, why am I being handcuffed the day of the raid? I was like, why am I being handcuffed? Am I being arrested? They said, you're being detained.
Just detained.
So that way we can make sure that nothing in the house is going to hurt us.
Right. Because they are afraid. They believe that everybody is as violent as they are. And that's what they expect. They expect to encounter violence, and so they act very, very cautiously. Not to, I don't want to dwell on that or harp on what happened on the 16th, but that's the reason why we're not there. That's the reason why you and I, who has never been to a Porcupine Freedom Festival or Fork Fest,
I was really excited.
Yeah, and I was too, to be there with you. The federal government has ruined that.
But I am also liking our staycation.
For sure. There's still a small chance I might be able to go up for like a day. But that's only if the magistrate in the case rules that I can actually see and speak to Aria DeMezzo, who is the person who is leading the show from the campground. And due to technical difficulties, they were unable to produce the show there today. So that's why we're here. The phones are open. We're here live, 603-283-6160. And hopefully we'll hear from somebody on the campground and get an update.
Did you tell Matt that the number changed?
No, I'm trying to get him to call in through the SIP method just so it'll sound better. But it's not an easy process necessarily to get through. There's a bunch of hoops to jump through. So I'm seeing how many hoops he's willing to try to jump through before he gets frustrated, and just, I'll give him the phone number then. He can call in. So anyway, we're talking about anxiety and depression, which thankfully you and I don't have a problem with, Bonnie. We are of the belief that this is, for most people that claim to have these things in their head, it's something that they can beat if they change their mindset about it.
And if it started in your childhood, it doesn't make it any less. It makes it harder to think that you can get out of it, but I promise you still can.
If it started in your childhood, it's probably your parents.
It's probably your parents' fault.
Taught you really negative modes of belief. They are probably the people who put these ideas into your head.
Taught you weren't smart enough to figure out how to do something scary or big or challenging,
or whatever it is, or didn't tell you differently when you had these ideas about anxiety or depression. They didn't tell you, oh, well, that's BS. You could start thinking differently, wake up in the morning, make a decision now to think more positively. And again, there's evidence that depression can be solved by a placebo.
Have you heard about toxic positivity?
Yeah. Can you define it?
It's the new attack on positive mental health by the people who are supposedly mental health experts. It's
Right.
people trying to say like, oh, there are just people out there who are trying to tell you just be positive, it'll solve all your problems, and that's toxic.
Well, it's also false. I mean, being positive will not solve all of your problems,
Right,
but
yeah.
it will make your life better. And if you are positive, and that I've heard this for a long time. I never heard the term toxic positivity, but one of our other co-hosts, he's not been on in a while, but Johnson, he's like a skeptic. It's sort of like the belief system that he has, if you can call it a belief system. But he's a skeptic, and so when it comes to positivity, he has all this evidence that like negativity is good for you, and that negativity makes you live longer, and like he's gotten all kinds of things that have like backed him up that being negative is a good thing. So the people that are attacking those who are making an effort to be more positive, I have to wonder about them. You know what? Are they just trying to justify their own negativity about their own life in that way? Because I've been somebody who's believed in thinking positively for, I don't know, the last 20 years of my life at least.
And all you do is win.
No, that's not true. I mean,
Yes, it is.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, in the long run, yes. I mean, in the long run, I think that even a quote unquote loss has lessons within it, and that it is an experience of growth. I mean, I've been to jail on more than one occasion for doing things like civil disobedience. I've lost those court cases. So, I mean, are those wins from the small perspective of looking at it in the moment? It doesn't feel like a win when you get found guilty or whatever and you have to go into a cage. But is it an experience from which you can grow? Yeah, it is, if that's the experience that you want to have. And so that's what happened when I was first sent to jail for standing in front of a police cruiser back in a decade ago. It was 2011, I think, when I was finally sentenced for that. It happened in 2010. When I was first sent to jail for that, my thought was, I'm going to make this the most positive experience that I can possibly have. Because I knew that a lot of people had a really negative experience in jail, that they went into it with a lot of fear, that they were afraid of what might happen to them, that there might be somebody mean to them or whatever, the guards would be abusive or whatever it was that they were afraid of. There's a lot of stories about jail. They're scared straight and, all this negative stuff. And I'm not saying bad experiences don't happen to people, but if you come at bad experiences from a positive perspective, you're more likely to see the good in them. You're more likely to see how you benefited from having that experience. And it's the same way of like when you, it's just when you think about certain people, like they show up in your life, when you think about a car, let's say you just get a new car that's a certain type of, or a new car to you, used car, whatever. You get a new vehicle in your life and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere. Have you noticed this?
Yeah. Like this used to happen to me, or this started happening to me with a friend. Like he had one of these Dodge Nitros. It's these tiny little cars. I think it was a Dodge Nitro. Dang it, now I don't know for sure. But I had never heard of it. It was a super tiny car. Anytime he was driving on the highway, it was kind of like scary because I just felt like I was such a tiny car.
Like a European kind of car?
Yeah, 80 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden I would see them all the time. I'd be like, there's another one. There's another one. Yeah, and I had never heard of them before that.
They were there. It's just that your consciousness was
aware of
attuned to them. And that same thing happens when you are more positive. You're tuning your awareness, your consciousness into positivity. You're more likely to see positive things happen. You're more likely to see positive aspects in people. This is one of the sort of gratitude experiments that you can do is we all have people that we don't get along with, right? Like that's just life. There's just going to be people that rub you the wrong way. They don't appreciate you. You don't get along with them or whatever. But if you can make, whether it be a coworker or a neighbor or, family member, if you can make the conscious effort to see the positive in that person, find it, if it's not immediately apparent, find positive things about them and be aware of those things about that person.
I've definitely done that with coworkers. Like, just told myself I'm going to have a positive experience with whoever today because I just it was ruining my life, not hers. That she was annoying me, and then it just all of a sudden you start to actually like being around them.
It changes your perspective, and ultimately that's all that you can control. You can't control what the other people think. But I remember the story. I think I remember the story you were talking about. You were working at a hotel. There was somebody you didn't get along with. You changed your attitude about that person, and all of a sudden you started becoming more friendly with that. Or like there was a more.
And now I love her.
Yeah, you completely changed the relationship. I mean, that to me is an incredible success story about the power of positivity. What could someone look at that and say, oh, well, that's toxic? You know,
I don't know. It's literally just an attack on people having positive mental health. It's just these experts in colleges who decide to tell people what is right and wrong about mental health instead of, like, honestly, like, I don't go to the doctor when I feel sad. That's weird to me. Like, everything that I think about mental health is just kind of a trial and error thing. It
comes from within you, whatever the solution is. It's not going to be a pill. Whatever that pill's doing is just going to cover up. It's going to paper over whatever it is that's inside of you from which these feelings are coming. You've got to solve whatever it is inside of you before you're going to have a better experience outside. Be the change you wish to see in the world, as Gandhi would say. 603-283-6160. That's our number here, and you can join us live on Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
I think it corrupts people over time. I mean, I don't think a homosexual is not going to be perverted in 5 minutes to turn to bestiality. But over generations, if they're having children, I believe over generations, it will pervert.
I'm pretty certain that being gay is not a choice because I think I'd make that choice, right? Like, my biggest problem with gay people is that I'm, like, jealous of them. Like, they have that Grindr app, like, they just go on their smartphone and get laid.
Oh, yeah, Derek is on that thing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that. I'm so envious of this, but I'm like, I gag when I brush my teeth. Like, I just couldn't do it, you know, and so... I made him laugh.
Wait, doesn't that mean he's perverted if he laughed at that joke?
You're laughing at a sick joke, sir. You're perverting society. You are responsible for the downfall of this country. It's all Karl Marx from here, thanks to you, pal.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The phone lines, 603-283-6160. The old number's back, and it's working, and hopefully it'll work better than ever, we're hoping. We're still testing it. In fact, we actually have somebody on those lines right now calling from Rogers Campground. We're going to tell you more about that. Also want to say thank you to Dan Krafzig. He is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Dan contributes $10 a month to the AMP program at amp.freetalklive.com. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com, and that is a way for you to help us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, to help us get on more radio stations. We've got about 185 stations across the country that air the show at various different times throughout the week. And I don't just mean across the country. I mean as far out as Guam. We are on in Guam as well. So,
and on satellite all the way into Africa.
That's true as well. Yeah, free to air satellite. So go to amp.freetalklive.com. You can get signed up with credit card, with PayPal, and technically Bitcoin, even though I can't receive those payments. So you probably shouldn't do the Bitcoin. Do credit card or PayPal.
I thought Mark can do it.
Mark can't really do much of anything when it comes to technology. So amp.freetalklive.com will let you become an amplifier just like Dan. He did gold level. That's $10 a month. We only ask for $5. So I appreciate it, Dan. Thank you for the extra there, and thanks for supporting Free Talk Live. Matt is with us, our Thursday night co-host. He's actually out at the campground. You arrived last night, which would have been the eve of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, we got here last night about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was about 70 beautiful degrees outside,
wow.
A little bit humid, a little tough to sleep because it was a little warm, but the weather today was absolutely gorgeous all day long, and
nice.
We just went through a brutal thunder and lightning storm with a lot of wind.
Wow.
But it seems to have let up now, and we're doing good.
Yeah, that happens up there. I mean, the weather can change in just a few moments, but most of the time, you know, this is the first official week of summer, right? This is a good time to get up to the North Country in New Hampshire. Most of the time, most years, you get mostly sunny weather, but every now and then rains will come through and it cools things down, and it's always welcome.
I bet it's beautiful.
It really is.
To be in the mountains when it's raining.
Great. Yeah, we're doing pretty well right now.
Now, the Porcupine Freedom Festival is a festival that's gone on since 2003, and it actually started at Rogers Campground way back when. And it was called something else back in the original days. I think it was called like Escape to New Hampshire or something like that. And then they changed the name to the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It left Rogers for a couple of years, and it was actually held, for whatever reason, they held it at like a state-run campground for 2 years. And then they finally went back to Rogers, thank goodness.
Yeah, that was Gunstock, right?
That's right, yep. And Rogers Campground in Lancaster, New Hampshire is the largest campground in the entire landmass of New Hampshire. This is the biggest one. And it's sold out this year for the very first time ever in the history of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. What are you seeing on day number one, Matt, as far as you've been to a lot of these festivals with me and others over the years? You know what day number one is like. It's the slowest day. The festival builds up toward the end of the week. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I'm looking at a Thursday crowd right now.
It's amazing.
So we usually wouldn't see this many people until Thursday of the week, and it's Monday. So there's a lot of people here already. It's pretty crazy.
What kind of events have been going on?
I haven't really done any events, honestly, because I've been trying to set up the site and, just get my tent and everything put up and the air mattress and the furniture blown up and get the canopy squared away, everything tied down. It's supposed to rain today, so I want to make sure everything's kind of tethered down to the ground really well. So
yeah, Monday, of course, is the arrival day it's the official first day. They're probably still putting up a lot of tents all around the campground. But nonetheless, some people do come prepared. They show up over the weekend and they get set up to where I heard that Kirby's Q, which is a local barbecue place that's run by Free State Project early movers, they're a regular there. I heard they were selling breakfast this morning.
They were. I stopped and talked to Carol and Ken today. They actually have 2 tents up today. Well, 1 tent and their barbecue trailer. So they've got their barbecue trailer that they have every year.
Nice.
And they have some preserved foods and things set up that they've made too. And they've got that whole tent set up on the other side of the camp.
I've heard from good sources that Carolyn's the best cook on earth.
Ooh, I mean, there's a lot of good cooks at this event.
There are a lot of good cooks up here, but Kirby's Q is definitely solid. Little Zoe's is also here too. They're going to be here all week.
Nice.
Yep.
So, are people taking cryptocurrency? Are you seeing that amongst the vendors this year?
Yep. And the most exciting part about that to me is that this will be the first time that a lot of the festival attendees will actually have real life use experience with crypto.
Right, because there's so many people that are going to be showing up this year. They've never been to New Hampshire before. That means they probably have never spent cryptocurrency before. Even online, a lot of people have just bought crypto and they've never done anything except held on to it. This is going to change that. The Porcupine Freedom Festival was the first place on the planet where there's really like a cryptocurrency community that rises up.
Yeah, we were technically the first economy for crypto in the world.
Yeah, and that goes back to like 2011 or 2012. I forget which year it was. It was one of those years where people like Roger Ver, Bitcoin Jesus, that's AKA Bitcoin Jesus, Eric Voorhees.
We have a lot of stories. I know one particular story of one person who apparently spent 24 Cassatius coins. Those are physical Bitcoins that are worth about 3 times as much as a regular Bitcoin.
Yeah, like the one the FBI stole from the studio safe.
They stole from you, But I remember back then, somebody spent 24 of those for 2 tacos.
Wow!
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so those are a couple of really expensive tacos these days.
Now,
oh my God.
Last year, the new thing at the Porcupine Freedom Festival and the subsequent festival, which happens the week afterwards, called Fork Fest, was Goldbacks. And I actually just got a text message, I don't know, a half hour ago. Some of the guys from Goldback have traveled all the way from Utah. They called me on a Utah cell phone, and they're driving up there right now. They're probably going to be pulling into the park within a few minutes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
those people and their product are outstanding.
Yeah, I wish I could be up there to meet them. From what I understand, they may be setting up on the Free Talk Live site at RV46, or if there's not enough room, I think you actually invited them to your site there. Was it 48?
Yeah, well, I'm only at RV48. I'm only 2 doors down from RV46.
Yeah, so I gave them your phone number, and they've got Aria's contact info. So, like I said, they might be pulling in the middle of the night or the evening here, but it'll be great to have them at this event because last year, Goldbacks were a huge hit, considering they'd never been even heard of before by most of the people on the campground, and almost every vendor was readily accepting them.
They're so pretty and cool.
Yeah, what's that, Bonnie?
Oh, they're so pretty and cool. When you first see them, you just want to know what they are.
They are pretty and cool. They are very, very interesting. In fact, one of the agents, when they raided the Free Talk Live studios, had a ton of questions about them, and he was interested in them. I felt he was interested in them not for professional reasons, but for personal reasons. I think he was wanted to know where he could get some, to be honest with you. I explained that they were a measured amount of gold sprayed on the back of a piece of polymer, roughly shaped like a bill. And
are you going to be taking them at your booth? I know you're planning on selling chili, right?
I didn't get time to cook anything. I was going to, but I didn't bring any cash. So if I'm going to be doing any business here at PorcFest, it's going to be in cryptocurrency. And if people aren't accepting it, then I'm not doing business with them.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for calling with the update here tonight, and have fun up there. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, the phone number here to join us on the radio. Bring up what you want. It's 603-283-6160. So glad to have that number back. That's 603-283-6160. And unfortunately, you and I, Bonnie, we are stuck here in Keene, New Hampshire for the next 2 weeks. Because, well, I'm on restricted bail conditions. You're not, but you want to hang out with me, so I appreciate you for that. So thank you.
I get to have you all to myself.
Indeed. And Coconut, too.
You and Coconut.
But it would be great to be up there, and it sounds like it's already a record-setting year with, as Matt, who is our co-host, was just on the phone with us at the Porcupine Freedom Festival on day number 1, describing this, the number of people that are there as like a normal Thursday turnout for Monday. So what always happens at the Porcupine Freedom Festival is some people can't come up for all 7 days of it. So like if all you can get off is your weekend or whatever, then a lot of people start coming up on Thursday and Friday, and then of course the event peaks on Saturday, and then some people go home Sunday. Some stay on to attend Fork Fest, which is happening this year. It's the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival. You can go to forkfest.party to learn more about the event. Somebody else actually launched another Forkfest website this year for the first time called forkfest.com, which actually has an interactive map where you can find out where people are at, like where the food vendors are and where people are going to be doing whatever sort of vending or partying or whatever it is they want to put on that map, which is a really cool addition to Forkfest this year. And that map, I believe, is active through the Porcupine Freedom Festival as well. So go to forkfest.party to learn more about Forkfest. It's going to happen from June 28th through July 4th this year. Believe that the fireworks that the park does is going to be on July 3rd this year. So
like the night of.
Correct. It doesn't always happen on the 4th due to the 4th not always being on a Saturday, but as close to the 4th as they can get it. That's when they do their fireworks on that closest Saturday. So if you can't make it to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, because again, it's a sold out event. So if you don't have your ticket now, the only way you can get a ticket is if somebody else can't go and wants to sell it to you.
Yeah, apparently Angie said there's a Telegram group. I don't know what the group is called, but there's a Telegram group where people are selling Pork Fest tickets.
As I understand it, the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year has made a move onto Telegram like never before. It used to be that they had like a sort of a proprietary piece of software that was like an events managing kind of software, and I think they got rid of that this year.
Sounds dumb. Sounds dumb.
It was actually pretty decent. It was called Hoova, and for what it did a good job, but from what I understand, it was probably an expensive thing.
But what do you mean proprietary? Like you have to have a certain phone?
No, it would work for any phone, but it was, Telegram's technically proprietary, although it is open source and it's client end. But Hoova is like, it's a closed source thing. They own the app, this company, and you have to pay to be on the app. So you have to pay them to have your event on their app, basically. And it makes it easy for people to connect and, have an event schedule and things like that. So I think it was a good app, but I don't know what they charged. Aria and I actually tried to look into it last year for Forkfest. We wanted to find out, what does it cost to get into this thing, get on this app? We wanted to get Forkfest on there, for instance. And it was one of those things where you couldn't find the price on their website. You had to call and talk to one of their salespeople, and then they pitch you on it. And then, it's per user you're probably paying or whatever. It was likely a very, very expensive app. So the Porcupine Freedom Festival, with their new organizer this year, Dennis, he embraced Telegram, and they've created official Porcupine Freedom Festival Telegram chats. So I think if you go to porkfest.com, there may be a way to connect and find out where those channels are. But you and I aren't going, so we're not on there, and I'm not even allowed to use Telegram under my bail restrictions. So that's happening right now. If you can't get to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, come to Forkfest. It's essentially an event that sort of sprung out of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. That's why it's called Forkfest. It was a fork, if you will, of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and so it happens the week after. It includes a lot of the same people. A lot of people who are like, you know what, I'd rather be here for 2 weeks rather than one. They stay on after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and they stay another week. Now, some people actually come just for Forkfest. So what will happen this weekend is the Porcupine Freedom Festival will sort of wind down on Sunday. Some people who have to go back to work or only plan to be here for a week, they got to leave. So they pack up their campsites and they take off. And then some people who, again, could only get a week off, they wanted to come to Forkfest because they prefer the more decentralized approach, because Forkfest has no organizer. There's no one deciding what goes on. Every individual who attends the event makes their own decision as to what to do or what to provide as far as services or food or whatever it is they want to do. And so every individual sort of decides at Forkfest. So it's a kind of a different vibe. And so some people just want to come up for that. So then next Monday, we'll see, again, numbers will go down likely at the end of the Porcupine Freedom Festival somewhat, and then they'll come back up a little bit more during Forkfest. Now, odds are Forkfest is probably not going to be sold out. From what I understand, not only is the Porcupine Freedom Festival sold out of tickets, 3,000 tickets got sold, which is almost twice what their biggest year was previously. They had like a 1,700 person year at their peak in, 2014 or so. And so this is way bigger than that. The entire campground is sold out. Every campsite, every RV site, every
How many people? How many
motel room.
tickets?
3,000 people. That would make this event, I think probably, correct me if I'm wrong on this, somebody out there, 603-283-6160, that may make the Porcupine Freedom Festival the biggest libertarian event, or voluntarist or anarchist, whatever you want to call it, libertarian event in America, hands down.
That's like a huge high school. Imagine just everyone at a huge inner city high school. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a ton of people, and a lot of them are going to be there for the very first time ever. They've never come to New Hampshire before, because all of a sudden, 2020, with the whole COVID crackdown, that brought it home to a lot of libertarians. Like, hey, it's time to start thinking about making a move. It's time to start, look, your government, these government gangsters, they're Texas, you name it. There's a ton of places across the country that were total crackdown places and or mostly total crackdown places. And people finally, now that they've been freed from a lot of their jobs that, you can work remotely, that was, of course, a big reason for people staying where they were. Well, it's my job. I've got a job here.
We heard about someone yesterday who's moving up here now because of during COVID, he got to start working remotely.
It's perfect.
Yep. Good excuse.
Now, is he already here, or is he coming?
He's here.
Okay, great. Because there's a lot of people that actually do make the move this week. Like, they pack their car up with whatever belongs. They sold a bunch of their stuff in their house, pack up whatever's left, make the move during the Pork Fest week, make the move during the Fork Fest week coming up, and then they never leave, and they stay here. So I think we're going to see record numbers. We saw record numbers of Free State Project movers last year. I think we're going to break that number this year, and I hope that we smash through it with more liberty-minded activists, people coming up here to make a better life for themselves. Aside from the federal government smashing in our windows back in March, Bonnie, how's your move been so far?
It's been amazing because, it's not that I didn't have a lot of friends in San Antonio. I had a lot of friends there and I had fun there, but my life just felt a lot more just going through the motions, and I felt like my life was just more pointless there. I was making money for me and Coconut to survive and then having fun with my friends when I wasn't working. But now it's all my friends here really believe in something important. And the stuff I do for the church really feels important to me. I don't think that I'm just eating pizza to survive to the next day so I can do Uber Eats. Yeah. I love it. And I love that I just feel this immense love for my friends up here because they're just people who really understand, they value the same things I do. Chris Wade, I love him so much. I just I've become really good friends with Chris Wade ever since he was here recording in the morning while we were being attacked by the government on March 16th.
When he recorded video outside at 6 in the morning, he came out here.
What a gesture.
Yeah, the people up here are outstanding, and you'll get a taste of that if you're at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. If you've never been around more than 2 or 10 libertarians, well, now you can be around 3,000 of them, and they're going to be people who you really get along with, and it's going to be a great time. So go to porkfest.com, porcfest.com to learn more about that event. This is Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio with you tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
We'll take your calls, your thoughts about what you want. Coming up, Bonnie, you've got kind of a related story to what we've been talking about with college students being even more anxious and depressed. And,
suicidal.
Yeah, screwed up, suicidal as a result of the COVID restrictions. You've got something about stay-at-home orders backfiring on people.
Lethally.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that. Your calls and thoughts certainly welcome. We also got a check-in from one of our co-hosts at the Porcupine Freedom Festival that just kicked off today. It sounds like it's going to be an epic week up there. Lots of great speeches. You can get a list of things that are going on. Just go to the PorcFest website, PORCFEST, porcfest.com. And join if you can get one of the second-hand tickets, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get them at this point. If not, go on up to ForkFest the week after and enjoy, sort of a more toned down, but yet still a lot of fun event.
Party event.
Yeah, it's more of a party. Good people at both of these events. Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. Mike is on the line listening to WOCA there in Ocala. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Ian. Yeah, Ian,
Hey.
with your restrictions and stuff, I had a bug to put in your ear regarding the Fork Fest and all that. I didn't know what you could and could not do, but I had an idea. The drone would be too expensive and maybe too dangerous, but how about taking a burner phone and then put it on a remote control vehicle and run around the campground, and you can be sitting there watching and talking to people, and it wouldn't be the same thing by any means, but just an idea to throw out there.
That's an interesting idea. There was actually something that happened similar to this years ago. It was, I don't know, 2014 or 2015. I was at a Bitcoin conference, and we broadcast from a number of these Bitcoin conferences over the years. And Roger Ver, who's a longtime sponsor here on Free Talk Live, he renounced citizenship from the United States because the government just kept on coming after him and trying to put him in prison for things like, importing fireworks and other, victimless crimes. And so he decided he was going to leave, and he did. And he's been living the good life in places like Japan and Antigua and elsewhere ever since. But he wanted to appear at this Bitcoin conference, so they set up like I don't know if it was like a Segway or something like that. You guys remember the single person mobile units that have wheels on them? They're like battery operated.
Yeah.
So they set up like a Segway with a tablet on it. And so Roger was able to remote control this Segway device from wherever, Japan or wherever he happened to be at the moment, and it had his face, live video feed of him on the tablet. So there was literally a robo Roger driving around this convention. Now, of course, it was a convention, so it's inside a hotel where you've got nice flat floors. It's easy to move something like that around. It'd be a little more challenging at Roger's campground, where let's just say the roads aren't in the best shape when it comes to getting from campsite to campsite, because generally, it's hard to keep roads in good condition in a cold place like New Hampshire, and so there's all kinds of what they call up here frost heaves. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, I was just something throwing out there because I didn't know what your restrictions entailed or what have you, and that's why I thought the cheaper version, my idea would be like a little remote control.
I think it's a great idea. People would love it. I obviously still have plenty of things to do here at the studio. We've got to provide broadcast support for our team that's up there. But hey, Mike, anything else you want to comment on tonight?
Just appreciate what y'all do, and I like how you approach life, and the non-aggression principle, and how you dealt with things, even personally, not just this recent thing, but even before then, how you would communicate how to not only deal with life, but how to present your ideas in a non-aggressive way or retaliatory way.
Love it. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate your time, and thanks for calling tonight. The number, if you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160.
I love it too, and it's really, really a discipline to live your life like that. I can't even say that I really live my life like that, but Ian does. And it's hard to always check yourself when you're being angry or, annoyed with the state. It can always come back to bite you if you're annoyed with the state, even if you're completely in the right, like we saw it happen to Nobody. He was upset because he was being held in a cage 23 hours a day for no actual crime. And he had a public defender lawyer who wouldn't talk to him for 2 weeks.
Oh, my God.
And then, he made a big crime of complaining about the people doing this to him, and they're using that as an excuse, his words during that time, as an excuse to hold him in longer, trying to claim that he's a violent person when he's never been violent in 52 years.
Yeah, well, he did say some things that weren't that different from some of the things he said on the air, sadly. And it's something I've been arguing with him about for the last, I don't know, year or two, maybe it seems like at this point.
But words are not violence.
No, they're not. But unfortunately, they will interpret them as encouraging.
That's what they would
Violence?
do. I just don't think that there should be a system that can put you in a cage for words that you speak.
Oh, I totally agree with you there. And I think Nobody should be out. I think that even if he hadn't said those things, I think they still would have denied him bail in the same way that they denied me bail, and I didn't say any of those things. But just because it's no skin off the magistrate's back to deny somebody bail. Even if she gets overturned, which she was in my case. So the magistrate's the first judge, quote unquote, judge that hears a bail hearing. She says no to bail. Well, if she gets overturned by the next judge, she doesn't get her pay docked or anything like that. There's not like she doesn't get a public flogging. There's nothing bad that happens to her as a result of that. It's just, oh, I got overturned. She has no penalty whatsoever for making the decision to keep somebody in a cage.
She gets to go home and sleep in her own bed at 5:00 p.m. that night.
Well, why wouldn't she? She's there to back the state. And so hopefully nobody is in the process of appealing, from what I understand. By the way, that's our co-host we're referring to here.
Oh, yeah.
Who's still in a cage after 6 of the liberty activists were arrested, the Crypto 6. You can go to thecrypto6.com to learn more about that. He's the only one of the 6 that's still in a cage today. You can reach directly out to him. I'm sure he'd appreciate hearing from you. If you enjoyed him being on the show and you want to comment to him about, whatever you feel like talking to him about, he's got all kinds of time on his hands. So you can go to thecrypto6.com, get the mailing address there for nobody, and send him a nice note. And or send him a book. I imagine he still needs books. If he's in there like I was, and I know he's not in 23-hour lockdown at this time. He was initially, because everybody that's brought into the jail for 2 weeks, they're quarantined, quote unquote, due to COVID. So everyone spends for at least 14 days in 23-hour a day lockdown there. And so now he's out, I believe, in population and has been for a while. So he is able to go out and, play cards with the other inmates and talk to the other inmates. So it does make passing the time a little bit easier if you're in that sort of situation. But it's nice to have books to read when you want to do that. And so, again, his address information is at thecrypto6.com, which, speaking of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, from what I'm told, ForkFest is the #1 sponsor of the Porcupine Freedom Festival this year, and that allowed the people who did the ForkFest sponsorship to name the stage. So at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, there's like the main pavilion. It's got the big stage on it, and that's where all the big speeches, Ross Ulbricht's mom or whoever else happens to be speaking there, Jeffrey Tucker, Tom Woods, all the speeches are given from there. And so you'll see there's going to be a ForkFest banner, I'm sure, right next to the stage, real big, but they're calling the stage itself the Crypto 6 stage. Did you know that?
Yeah, I had heard that. That's so cool.
I think that's fantastic. It's going to bring a level of, I think, exposure to the Crypto 6 that maybe we haven't had yet. I also heard through the rumor mill that Aria, our co-host, is expected to speak on Saturday. So on the final day, when the big day at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, she will be on stage just before lunchtime. So a lot of people are going to be awake at that time. They're going to be out looking for something to do. And so she's going to have, I think, is it a panel discussion? Have you heard this? I've heard it might be a panel.
I'm not sure if it's a panel, but I know she's going to give like a whole speech about the
Crypto 6.
Not just the Crypto 6. Well, the implications, like what this means for the world, this case.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be important. I wish I could be there to see it. Hopefully somebody will get video and put it online, so even the people who weren't there will be able to see this speech. So you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, Bonnie, you've got a story about these stay-at-home orders and how they have backfired. And what will that mean? I'm just going to predict more depression, more suicide. I mean, we'll see how much of it is a retread of the college story out there, but I'm curious to see what happens in this one. Of course, you can join us as well and bring up whatever is on your mind. Also on the way here tonight, vaccinated people are still nervous. They're still afraid about going back to normal. We can talk about them as well. You can join us on Free Talk Live. Hour 3 next.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Reject the plan. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Attorneys general from nearly 24 states are calling for the Postal Commission to reject proposed changes to mail delivery.
In a statement, Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, says the AGs of 21 states want the Postal Regulatory Commission to reject a proposal by Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. It would increase mail delivery times, specifically for first-class mail. James writes that for more than a year, they've had to fight the USPS to get it to fulfill its mission to deliver things like paychecks and medications in a timely manner. Earlier this year, DeJoy outlined the changes that he said would keep the Postal Service from requiring a government bailout. He told Congress that they lost $9 billion last year and have $80 billion in unfunded mandates to prepay health care costs for future retirees. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
The White House says red tape has delayed some global deliveries of COVID vaccine.
What we found to be the biggest challenge is not actually the supply. We have plenty of doses to share with the world, but this is a Herculean logistical challenge, and we've seen that as we've begun to implement.
Press Secretary Jen Psaki, 55 million doses have been set aside for global distribution. That's in addition to the 25 million that have already started to go out. The vaccines will go to Latin America, Asia, and Africa through the UN's COVAX program. The White House says another 14 million will be shared directly with nations around the world. The 77-year-old driver who police in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, say accidentally slammed his truck into fellow members of a gay chorus group, killing one man, says he's devastated by the crash during a weekend Pride parade. Fred Johnson expressed his condolences to the man's family. Police in the Denver suburb of Arvada, Colorado, say an officer and one suspect have died. Another is hospitalized after a gunfight this afternoon in a shopping district. America is listening to Fox News.
What you wear every day shouldn't feel every day. That's why Peter Millar is devoted to elevating your casual everyday apparel. This summer, Peter Millar crafted a lineup that'll help you coast through the season in style. From the course to the beach to the city, experience Peter Millar's relaxed styles that are the perfect fit for your summer adventures. Explore the entire collection today at petermillar.com. Enjoy free shipping, effortless returns, and a complimentary gift with your purchase at petermillar.com/foxnews. petermillar.com/foxnews.
The city of Minneapolis will likely never recoup damages for the destruction of a police station during the 2020 unrest.
Legal experts tell the Minneapolis Star-Tribune that it's unlikely the 4 men convicted in order to pay for setting fire to the city's 3rd police precinct last year as violence rocked the city. In the wake of George Floyd's death, will meet their financial obligations. 4 defendants have been sentenced to federal prison in order to collectively pay $12 million in restitution. The restitution that the city will likely never see, as the Department of Justice recovers only about 1 out of every $10 owed per year, making restitution sometimes more symbolic in a criminal sentence. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
The stream of people crossing the southern border continues, with some smugglers bringing people across right in front of federal agents.
We watched as human smugglers use rafts to bring over migrants by the dozens over and over and over again right in front of the National Guard, Border Patrol, and state troopers. It was literally like a ferry service, and these human smugglers had absolutely no fear of being caught. They were very confident. They even took off their head coverings. They were laughing while they were doing it. They were making jokes saying, do you want our autograph? Do you want to take a photo of us? And it was about 60 migrants they brought over in a span of about 30 to 45 minutes. A lot of the migrants coming over with little children. A lot of them were those family units with moms, but there were some of those single adults with them.
Fox's Bill Malugin in La Jolla.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
So, Shelby, let's start with you. You say that our bogs and marshes should actually be paved over.
That's right. Absolutely, Brooke. These things are nothing but dead body dumping pits that make life easy for murderers. And it's disgusting to me that sickos like Mr. Popkin actually want to protect these things.
All right, well, Mr. Popkin, how do you respond to this?
Bogs and marshes are important ecosystems that should be protected. I mean, they're already being endangered.
Whoa, excuse me. As long as these human landfills remain open for business, what we're essentially saying to the criminal element is, sure, do whatever you like, and throw the evidence here in this federally protected black hole.
I testified before Senator Chuck Grassley, who wanted to lift federal protection on these lands, and what I told him is exactly what I'm going to tell you now.
And where is Chuck Grassley right now, sir? Could it be that he's sitting at the bottom of a bog somewhere? Why else would you be so hot on these wetlands if you aren't a murderer yourself?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, kicking off the third hour of the program. Phones are open here as always. Well, I guess I can't say as always. Almost always, with the exception of the Porcupine Freedom Festival and Fork Fest, which kicked off today, although we're not there. Bonnie and I are here in the studio. Hey, Bonnie.
Hi.
I'm Ian, and our number again, 603-283-6160. We're here sort of keeping things working in the studio as our remote crew is up at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. They just weren't able to get everything connected in time to get the pre-recorded show done.
Which makes today the last day for probably about 2 weeks for you to be able to call in.
Unless something else goes wrong in the next
Hopefully
2 weeks,
not.
we will be there to pick up the ball if necessary, and that's fine because I enjoy doing this show with you.
I like doing it with you.
Like pretty much everything. 603-283-6160. But the Porcupine Freedom Festival going on, and it's looking like it's going to be a great event. Let's get back to talking about depressing things, okay? So, Bonnie, you've got a story tonight. It's sort of in the sounds like it's going to be in the same vein as what we started talking about, which is was focused on college students and how, you know, normally young people, and you've had this experience with your friends, talk about how anxious they are constantly and how they're depressed. And of course, now it's worse than it's ever been due to the COVID crackdowns, due to all the restrictions. Well, let's go to a different story, Bonnie. You've got something else. What do you want to share?
Yeah, Captain put this in our group chat in the Telegram, which you can't look at, so I have it on my phone. It's from FEE. It's an article saying a new study finds that lockdown orders didn't reduce overall mortality and may have even increased it. So
oh, wow.
Captain put the caption, "Oh, so it looks like what we've been talking about on the air and speculating for a year has actually been true according to the study."
Yeah, that's not a surprise at all, and I'm curious to hear the numbers. I remember Tom Woods did some numbers, he did some crunching of the numbers between the different states.
He's been doing it. He's been on that since the beginning of COVID.
Right, and he looked at states like California that had as much of a crackdown as you possibly could and compared it to states like Florida or South Dakota, which were kind of the opposite to some extent, and found that there was no significant difference between the number of infections and deaths and things like that, right?
That's what I remember from
Yeah.
Tom's studies. Well, I don't know if he did studies, but
He looked at studies.
looked at studies and
Yeah.
put charts together and things like that.
Yep.
But this article talking about a study on FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education, says life under lockdown was hard for all of us, from economic destruction to social isolation. The costs of restrictive government policies intended to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 have been steep. But now yet another study suggests that the benefits wrought by our collective sacrifice were negligible at best, and that stay-at-home orders may have even increased overall mortality. In a new paper, economists from the University of Southern California and the RAND Corporation examined the effectiveness of shelter-in-place mandates, aka stay-at-home orders, using data from 43 countries and all 50 U.S. states. The experts analyzed not just deaths from COVID-19, but excess deaths, a measure that compares overall deaths from all causes to a historical baseline.
Right. So what's the typical number of people to die over whatever given period of time? Was it higher? Was the amounts of deaths higher? Were they due to COVID? Turns out maybe not so much, but they were higher, but not due to COVID.
The authors explain that lockdown orders may have had lethal unintended consequences in their own right, such as increased drug overdoses.
Well, hold on. Now, they might have been unintended, but they weren't unpredictable. Like with the same thing with like the war on drugs. We know what the consequences are going to be when you prohibit a product or a service.
Killed my friend because my friend started overdosing and the person he was with was scared and left, not knowing that.
Scared to try to help him, like take him to a hospital. That kind of thing.
So they left. So I mean, like if there wasn't a war on drugs, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal to go get somebody overdosing help.
Exactly.
Still be alive.
And there's so many people who've had those situations, but all of that is completely predictable. And we talked about it back in March or whatever of last year. We knew that this was going to result in people doing more drugs, in people who had just, gotten beaten alcoholism or thought they'd beaten alcoholism, falling back off the wagon and going back to drinking, drinking harder if they already had a drinking problem, doing more harder drugs because they have no future. They feel like they have no future. They're locked inside. They can't hang out with their friends. They can't have social circles like they used to. I mean, it was so predictable.
It says, such as increased drug overdoses, worsened mental health problems, increased child abuse, deadly delays in non-COVID medical care, and more. If you think the government cares about your mental health, and I mean, it's just stupid to think that at all, and then see that they put you in lockdowns. But if anything else can point to that that's not true, it's that the government mandates of 2020 caused more child abuse.
Not only that, how about spousal abuse? How about, your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever? There's a lot of domestic violence situations that were exacerbated by this. If you've got a relationship that's crappy with a violent person, and again, there's plenty of women that are violent against men as well. That just goes unreported. So whether it's a man being violent against a woman, or a woman being violent against a man, or whatever partner being violent with their partner, and one of the ways you'd escape from that situation is by being able to go to work every day, so you're not at home constantly with this violent nut job, this drunken, psychopath or whoever it is.
Or if you're a kid, then, you got to go to school and people maybe could have seen it or something like that.
Now you're at home with that person 24 hours a day. I mean, if you had a strained, difficult relationship when you were gone 8 hours a day, it's going to be way worse if you're there 24 hours a day.
Yep, and child abuse is something that can cause serious mental issues
with the children.
Yeah, well, with people who grow up who were once children who were abused.
Right.
I mean, that's if you think that the government cares about you, they just cause more child abuse. They don't care about your mental health.
Nope. They care about obedience, and for them, this was an amazing experiment to see how obedient Americans are, and it turns out they're pretty damn obedient.
Yep.
They do everything they're told.
Even more reason not to outsource your mental health hygiene to the government or any authorities.
No doubt.
The authors explained that lockdown orders may have had... Oh, yeah, I already said that, sorry. So to find out whether stay-at-home orders truly helped more than they hurt, examining excess deaths, not just pandemic outcomes, is key. The results aren't pretty. We fail to find that shelter-in-place policies saved lives, the authors report. Indeed, they conclude that in the weeks following the implementation of these policies, excess mortality actually increases even though it had typically been declining before the orders took effect. And across all countries, the study finds that a 1-week increase in the length of stay-at-home policies corresponds with the 2.7 more excess deaths per 100,000 people. The lockdown simply didn't
for each week
work.
For just 1 week, it said.
It says the study finds that a 1-week increase in the length of stay-at-home policies.
Right, so a 2-week increase would increase the deaths even more, presumably, and a 3-week increase would increase the deaths even more.
It says the lockdown simply didn't work. We failed to find that the countries or U.S. states that implemented SIP, shelter-in-place, that's what that stands for, SIP, policies earlier, and in which SIP policies had longer to operate, had lower excess deaths than countries, U.S. states that were slower to implement SIP policies. So what is it trying to say? We failed to find... So the ones that did it earlier...
The ones that did it earlier and more stringently had more excess deaths.
Oh, that's what they failed to find. So they were saying, we failed to find that like harder lockdowns worked
better.
We failed to find that when they implemented SIP policies earlier and when they had longer to operate, that they had lower death rates. And it says, and their finding is no outlier. A number of... sorry, something popped up. So annoying. And their finding is no outlier. A number of other credible studies have similarly concluded that lockdowns were ineffective at slowing the spread of COVID-19. Plus, other research now shows that most COVID-19 spread occurred at home, not out in the world, making stay-at-home orders all the more absurd in hindsight.
But of course, they won't learn. You know, they're not going to care about what these studies are saying. They're going to do this again. And the reason they're doing this is not because, as you point out, it's not to help people. It's to control. And we'll continue. Your thoughts welcome. Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Sorry.
It was actually a can of water, believe it or not. It was very loud.
That was really that loud. I didn't have my headphones on yet.
Yeah, 603-283-6160. Bonnie's not drinking alcohol on the air. We don't do that stuff.
Mark said that there's some kind of a rule against it.
He has been corrected about that on multiple occasions, but he still continues to believe it. It's not true. 603-283-6160. It's just not a good idea. There's not like a FCC rule against it, which is what Mark believes. We looked into it. He should have remembered that, but he just doesn't retain that.
He doesn't really remember stuff very well.
Yeah. He's blaming it on COVID.
Today is actually Mark's fault that
my God.
There's not a show coming on from PorkFest right now is because do you hear that squeaking sound?
Yeah, I do,
sorry.
and I don't know what it is.
Anyways, it's because he forgot to go get the headphones that Arya needed. So
Right, yeah, he was supposed to bring up a pair of headphones for her and just didn't. So anyway, the number here is 603-283-6160. But that's okay. We've been having a good time here, and the phones are open as always. Bonnie, you've been sharing with us a story from the Foundation for Economic Education, and this is about the lockdowns, the stay-at-home orders, quote unquote, that not only did they not stop people from getting COVID, but they also, they didn't. What they actually did was create more deaths. They created more sickness because people caught COVID from their own homes, and they created more death because people were, depressed and disturbed by their lack of social abilities and things like that. Right?
Yep, it's talking about a specific study by a Southern Californian college, but it's also talking about that there have been other credible studies that have concluded that lockdowns were ineffective, and also some studies that have concluded that most COVID-19 spread occurred at home, which makes stay-at-home orders in hindsight all the more absurd. It says, of course, there is tremendous resistance to acknowledging the fact that the sacrifice we all endured evidently accomplished nothing, and may have even left us worse off. But
I didn't endure that sacrifice because we went out the night that they said that there was going to be this stay-at-home order in place in New Hampshire. We went out and we threw a party in Central Square called Nightcap here in Keene, New Hampshire, and so it's basically a civil disobedience party. Although the way the stay-at-home order could be interpreted was that there was like a loophole that you could possibly get out of if you ended up being charged or something like that. But they never even tried to charge us. They never even, messed with us in any way except for giving us some parking tickets one night.
Yeah, well, you're still not supposed to drink in the square.
That's true. We did that too. We did 36 weeks of this protest in Keene, New Hampshire. So I feel bad for anybody who actually did what they were told. I feel really bad. If you are a libertarian, like this is the foundation of economic education or for economic education. Purportedly, there's a libertarian or voluntarist who's writing this article. I mean, why did you do what they told you?
Well, I did for a while for school, and it was just getting so depressing. And then when I heard about the show, I wanted to come up here and visit and see you because it was so exciting to me to think of. Well, the thing is, like, even if you didn't want to do it yourself, you'd be the only one in a city.
That's
Like,
a good
seriously,
point, because
the
so many
only
people
one.
did what they were told.
Like, your own friends are saying stuff to you like, girl, I was working at Target and I just wanted to kill somebody because they came in without a mask.
Wow.
And you're just like, well, I mean, and your secret thought in your head is like, well, the masks don't really do anything or whatever, but you don't want to tell everybody that because it makes you look like a Republican.
Yeah, we had heard from people who were city libertarians who were just being ostracized by their friends. The people that they thought cared about them did not respect their decisions at all, were not being kind to them in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of people visiting New Hampshire, and we're seeing a lot of people considering making the move up here. That's not to say that New Hampshire was great in any way, shape, or form when it came to the COVID crackdowns.
It's more about the people here than the government lockdowns. The people here will actually, stand up for themselves.
Well,
not all of them, but there are more people here.
And even the libertarians were split in New Hampshire. There were a group of them who were like pro-mask, pro-fear libertarians, and that was really disappointing. It was overall a pretty disappointing year, but there were still a good core group of disobedient, non-cooperative people, especially here in Keene and elsewhere in New Hampshire, that were not doing what they were told. And there was some pushback.
Like, everybody at the beginning, kind of, even me, I was like, at the beginning of the whole COVID thing, I thought that this was probably something to, want to wear a mask for or whatever.
Well, it did seem kind of scary, in the beginning because no one really knew what they were dealing with. So I could understand why someone would be cautious early on.
And then after a while, you just start to be like, do you know anybody that's died? Do you know anybody that's died? And, you just start to be like, this is kind of BS.
At the same time, though, when I don't like being told what to do. And whenever governments say a thing, I just don't believe them. So I never really signed on with the fear from day number one.
My fear was more like the fear of the government trying to attack us with a bioweapon, trying to kill us. I was just thinking like the government was going to give us a disease and kill us. So, and then the more it went on, if you're a free thinking person, you can think stuff like, well, I don't know anybody that's died, and I don't know anybody who knows anybody that's died, and like you can start to realize that it's BS. But then there are people who just cannot think freely by themselves, and they're like, just because I don't know anybody that has died and I don't know anybody that knows anybody that has died doesn't mean that the people who die on TV aren't real. They might not be.
Right, and the fear is propagated so effectively through television, through social media, and through actual social interactions between people, whether it be online or in real life, and that is why people were so obedient. Even here in New Hampshire with the supposed live free or die mentality, it wasn't until the city of Keene repealed its mask mandate in the beginning of this month, that we started to see significant numbers of people take their masks off.
Yeah, it's really, really annoying to see a bunch of people who didn't want to be wearing it until like the day before June 1st that Keene stopped making people wear masks. Everybody was wearing a mask. So that they didn't want to be wearing a mask and didn't actually believe that it was like life or death for them to wear a mask. June 1st comes and nobody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
It's just like that's proof that you were just wearing it because the government told you to and because you're afraid you might get a fine from the government, and you're just propping them up. That's why towards the end of the mask thing, like the end of May, I just started to think like I'm annoyed with these people because they're literally just government proper-uppers. Like that's what they are. Like they're not, making any type of statement. They're just just lying on their backs and letting the government do whatever they want to.
And I had hoped better for the people of New Hampshire. I had hoped there would be more disobedience, and there was some. I mean, there was a group of folks that went to some local businesses, or not even local business, corporate businesses like the co-op here in town and Hannaford Grocery, and they did some mask-free shopping events, And there were protests out in front of the governor's house on multiple occasions. You went to one of them. I went to multiple during the thick of winter, too. There was a lot of people that did come out and do things against this, just not as many as I'd hoped.
I thought it was more effective to protest to the actual governor than to protest to like a business.
I don't even think any of it was effective.
Well, maybe not effective, but more appropriate.
It was something to do. There's more on the way. You could share your thoughts. More to your story as well from Fee, right?
Yep.
603-283-6160. If you want to join us, it's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. It's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. The number here for you. If you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And in the studio with you tonight, you've got me, Ian.
And Bonnie.
And Bonnie, you've been telling us about a story from the Foundation for Economic Education. They looked at studies. They did a study. They looked at lots of information from 40-something countries, all 50 states. And surprise, surprise, they found that the lockdowns, the stay-at-home orders, actually hurt people more than they helped them.
It says that they evidently accomplished nothing and may have even left us worse off. But
They definitely left us worse off. Not only
so.
Like, even if you were to eliminate the depression, even if you were to eliminate the drug addiction, the suicides, the people destroying their relationships, domestic abuse, even if you were to wipe all that off the table, they hurt us economically because people lost their jobs, which of course is a good reason to be depressed.
And their businesses.
And their entire businesses. People had their very successful businesses shut down. You'd think, oh, well, if it was a successful business, how come they couldn't weather the storm? Because there was no one coming in.
Because the government was interfering, and interference is unnatural.
Correct. And you can only deal with this sort of unnatural shutdown of your business for so long. The rent's still got to get paid. The mortgage still has to get paid. Even if they delayed it, which they did in a lot of places, said, oh, well, we'll put a moratorium on, rent payments or whatever, but you still had to pay it later. How are you going to do that?
If nothing else, we're worse off because we've put more power into the government, aka the murder cult that is, not just the United States. Us here in America, we put more money into the hands and more power into the hands of the murder cult of the United States. And all countries pretty much did that in the last few years. I mean, in the last 2 years, I guess it's been, I guess it's only been a year and a few months since COVID. It feels like forever.
It seems like a long time. A lot of people are hurt by this, and it's not over. They're going to keep, they're reopening things, but are they going to bring it back? Are they going to bring the lockdowns back this fall? When, flu season starts up again, and then all of a sudden people start getting sick again. Now that the population has become so cowed and so easily frightened, it's only a matter of them just saying, well, we're locking down again, and then everybody's just going to do what they're told.
Yep, and that's so obvious if you look at the fact that people just were wearing masks up until the day before the government told them they didn't have to anymore.
Right. They'll groan about it because obviously a lot of people didn't want to, but they'll put them back on, and they'll go and they'll do exactly what they're told. And the only thing that can stop this is a large concentration of people who are willing to say no, of people who are willing to take whatever risk we're talking about of getting a fine. And then, by the way, if you get a fine for this stuff, don't pay it. Because every time you pay a fine to these goons, you're just encouraging them. It's just like giving the bully money. The bully's going to bully you again if you give him money the first time, because now he knows you're a mark. You're easy to target. He can shake you down for more money. Same thing's true of the government gang. Stop paying these people. Go ahead. What else does the Foundation for Economic Education have to say?
They say the takeaway here is not just that stay-at-home orders are an ineffective public policy. It's that politicians will always claim they can solve our problems if given just enough centralized power. But we must not
And there's never enough.
Nope. We must not fall for their rhetoric and focus only on the seen tangible benefits of government action, like potentially slowing down the spread of COVID-19. What does that mean? We must not focus on, potentially slowing down the spread of COVID-19. We must also consider the unseen and unexpected second-order effects and consequences. That's all.
That was the story? Yeah. Look, I don't care about the potential for slowing down COVID-19. I don't care whatever the authoritarian idea is that they want to shove down people's throats. I don't care if it actually does save more lives. Now, we've seen that it actually didn't. But even if it did save more lives, I still don't want to be told what to do. Because that's just the way freedom is supposed to work. Like, we're supposed to be able to make decisions for ourselves. I should be free to make the decision about how much risk I want to take. And if you are afraid, then you should be free to stay home and isolate yourself from other human beings.
Well, the thing that was touched on in that story is actually most of the spread was spread at home. So really the main thing about the government telling me what to do that I don't like is the fact that they're not actually giving good advice.
Mm-hmm.
They don't actually care about your health or safety or mental health at all. They're all of their things that they're telling you to do are actually just to give them more control so they can bomb people and continue perpetual wars and continue to have you as their slave. It has nothing to do with health. So like if the government didn't tell people to lock down, we have now multiple studies and evidence to see that less people would have died overall in general.
Why did people have it spread at home, though? That's an interesting question. It'd be interesting to look at that, because I remember we talked about a study that the military did. The captain had this story months ago, where they had like a total like clean environment. They sanitized the crazy
deepest lockdown they could possibly have.
It was a heavy lockdown, heavily sanitized, constantly re-sanitized, and they still had people catch COVID, and they still had it spreading within this facility, and it wasn't in any significant manner less than people outside of it. So why is that? Is it because when people are home alone or nearly alone with one or two loved ones, that they're locked down 24 hours a day, barely going outside to get any kind of exercise, barely going outside to get any kind of sunlight? Some of these things that are sort of natural barriers against getting ill, catching something that could make you sick.
Maybe your immune system is weakened, yeah.
I think absolutely that was the case. And that was something Ron Paul, who's a doctor, by the way, was saying at the early end of COVID. Last year, a year plus ago, Ron Paul was saying this is a bad plan. Locking people inside is not going to help their immune systems. It's not going to make them more impervious to catching this thing. And so, but of course, still, another question is, how does COVID get into a place if people aren't even leaving the house? Like, how does that happen?
I really have no idea, but I doubt that. I mean, I don't really think that it's really the case that people who, like, every single person didn't leave the house got it. That would be kind of crazy. I think we'd hear about that more. I think it's more like, somebody went to the grocery store and came back and spread it to their family at home.
Could be.
Or they went out at some point and they got it and they spread it at home.
But what about the military thing where they were taking super clean precautions, from like sanitizing all the food product boxes or whatever that were coming into the building, like being extra crazy kind of OCD level clean?
I don't know. It's not even like very clear to me if COVID is airborne or if it spreads on surfaces.
I don't think it's even clear to them.
That's what I'm going to say, or what I was trying to say. It just seems like they don't really like have a straight answer for us. The experts.
First they said it did. First they said it was on the surfaces for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, and then they said no, it's not that way.
That's complete bogus. Like that's not true at all. And then and they were also saying it was airborne, and I was really scared about that at the beginning. I have no idea. So
what I was concerned with was not COVID, but the loss of freedom, and that was what really happened here. And we're not going to get that back. It may appear as though freedom has come back. We played that stupid song.
Oh my gosh, that's what I was thinking
the other day.
The Ariana Grande and
no lockdowns anymore. What a straight up lie. That's not true.
It's just the beginning of future lockdowns for the next, crisis they want to make a lockdown for.
Yeah, it's pure propaganda. They are going to do this again because they know they can. There's no reason why we won't see another lockdown in our lifetime, if not within the next year.
Yep.
The only thing that could stop it would be widespread noncompliance, and we didn't have that in most places. Now, from what I understand, there were some rural areas of the United States where there was fairly widespread noncompliance. Kudos to those folks. 603-283-6160 allows you to join us here. That's 603-283-6160. We're going to continue with a story about the fraidy cats, the people who have the vaccine and they're still frightened to go back to quote-unquote normal. This is Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Never, ever send a follow-up email asking, "Did you get my email?" Email 101. If it didn't bounce back undeliverable, it got where you sent it. And avoid transmedia pestering, like calling to ask, "Did you get my email?" or emailing to say, "I left you a voicemail." If your emails and voicemails aren't being acknowledged, your problem isn't technology, it's technique. Is your message concise and understandable? Have you boiled it down to seem as relevant as possible to the recipient? In other words, is it the opposite of spam or junk mail? All of this really matters if you're a job seeker. But even if you're not, with money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, the number for you to join us in these remaining moments, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Bonnie.
Don't forget, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. We've got a social media site. You can get interactive with other Free Talk Live listeners and some of the hosts of the show. Just go to social.freetalklive.com. We've got set up where you will automatically follow some of the main hosts on the show, like myself and you, Bonnie, the captain, and others, Arya, and Mark. You can go and get signed up over at social.freetalklive.com. If you want to unfollow us, that's fine. You can do that.
No.
But it's kind of get you started to where you have some people that you can read their posts. It's still in the early days of the site. There's still not a ton of people posting there, but if you want a place to go to where you got more freedom to express yourself than these big media platforms, these big tech platforms like Facebook or Twitter, get on over to social.freetalklive.com. You and I were just discussing during the break that it's been actually a while since we've covered this COVID nonsense on the air here on Free Talk Live. Thankfully, it's not the completely dominant news topic these days.
Yeah, it hasn't been as hard to care or talk about.
And it hasn't been as much in our lives recently, thank goodness. I mean, that's partially because I'm locked down, but also because they got rid of the mask mandate here in Keene. And I would say of the times we've been out, because we go shopping, I get a shopping trip out on Sundays that my probation officer has allowed me to have with you. And we've done it, 3 weeks in a row now, I think?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row.
I wonder if this is going to be when you get COVID, because you are being locked in your house. I already had COVID.
Or maybe I already had COVID. There was an incident that both Nobody, our co-host Nobody, and I had. It was probably January of 2020, where he and I both got very sick for a very short period of time, diarrhea, level kind of barfing all simultaneous. It was pretty awful in the middle of an overnight. Maybe that was COVID. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I'm not worried about it, though. I mean, I expect that I will survive, and if I don't, well, then I don't.
I will survive.
So, Anyway, I don't know where I was going with all that. Oh, the idea that we're, things are getting better, it seems like, at least based on our shopping trips. We went on a couple of shopping trips. We went to Walmart. We went to Target. We went to a grocery store that's a regional store called Market Basket. And it seems like maybe at Market Basket, 40% or less, maybe 30 or 40% of the people shopping there were wearing masks. I'd say at Target it was probably 60%.
Yeah, there's at least 50 to 60%.
And then Walmart, maybe 40%. So it's definitely much lower than it was. But that said, people are, especially the city people, they're still steeped in this stuff in a lot of places. And Time Magazine has a story. The headline, you can tell how lame it's going to be just by this headline. Even vaccinated people are nervous about going back to, quote, normal. Here's how to cope. Claudia Campos, who's 34, wanted there to be no doubt about why she continues to wear a face mask at the Florida car rental company where she works. She decided to screen print a mask that telegraphs her thoughts. It reads, "I'm vaccinated, but I'm not ready to trust you." Can you imagine, your boss letting you wear something like that in front of customers?
Oh, she's at work?
Yeah.
That's very weird.
Campos' slogan distills the complicated emotions. It's not complicated. It's just fear.
That's okay, there was a lady here taking pictures of us, and she was wearing a mask.
For the reporters?
In our house. And I was just thinking, imagine that COVID-19 never happened, and this lady just came into our house for, some story, and she's taking pictures of us, and she's wearing a mask into our house. It'd be so, weirdly insulting. Well, I would probably assume she had something very wrong with her, either she had an extreme fear of germs,
sure.
or she had, some kind of, I don't know, just something.
I mean, by all evidence, she has an extreme fear of germs.
But I was just thinking, imagine if COVID never happened, I might be what's wrong with her? Why is she wearing a mask in my house? Does she think we're dirty?
The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has said that roughly 43% of the people in the U.S. who are fully vaccinated can mostly ditch masks, travel safely, and gather indoors with others. But many of those 43% are finding they're not ready to live like it's the before times. And they put that in capitals, a pronoun.
The before times? Why are they talking like a baby? Caveman?
That's how this is. It's all very babyish, very,
Caveman.
We need to baby everybody, treat them like children. Remember, here's how to cope.
Here's how to cope with returning to the before times.
In March
Freaking
2021, in an American Psychological Association poll, about half of respondents said they were, quote, uneasy, unquote, about resuming in-person social interactions, regardless of vaccination status. And in a May 25th Axios Ipsos poll, about half of vaccinated respondents said they still wear a mask at all times outside of the house. At all times.
even after the CDC's announcement that doing so is no longer necessary. In fact, many of these people were upset when the CDC made that announcement.
It's silly, but at least I have a little bit more respect, actually. You know, like when I'm over here thinking about it, it's a little bit less ridiculous to continue wearing the mask instead of taking it off the day the CDC says it's okay to.
Well, yeah, at least they're making their own decision.
And they're also
in that
just
case.
like being consistent. Like the day before, they were wearing the mask because they were actually scared.
Yeah, these are the true believers.
Yeah, and the day after, they're still scared.
Lauren, a 38-year-old from New York City, who asked to be identified by first name to preserve her privacy, says she and her wife are living essentially as they did in 2020, even though they're both fully vaccinated. They've dined inside once, an experience simultaneously refreshing and stressful, Lauren says. But otherwise, she's 38. Otherwise have stayed mostly outside and mostly masked. That's in large part because the couple has a 2-year-old daughter who isn't eligible for vaccination, and they want to keep her safe, even though almost no one who is a child has ever died from COVID.
It's more
ever.
risky to give a child a vaccination that has been untested.
Absolutely. Lauren admits that there's, quote, some lingering anxiety from having followed all these protocols for so long. It's hard to believe that certain things are actually safe, even though we know they should be. So they're just constantly in a state of fear. They have been inculcated with fear from head to toe for so long, they can't let go of it. Rob Dansman, an Indiana-based licensed clinical, medical, or mental health tech counselor, says that that's a normal response to a year marked by confusion. He says humans are terrible when it comes to not knowing the rules of the game. We had mixed messages, we had inconsistent science, inconsistent testimony, inconsistent mandates from different states. From my vantage point, if people were not experiencing some fear and trepidation, that would be weird. Well, I can tell you I wasn't experiencing fear.
The correct response to a bunch of people who were supposedly the experts giving you conflicting science is to stop listening to them.
The confusion is also not over. On one hand, the data around COVID-19 vaccination is outstandingly and consistently good. Now, this is Time's, little opinion here. People fully vaccinated with the mRNA shots are 91% less likely to be infected by the virus than unvaccinated people, according to recent CDC data.
Well, another study came out that said that if you've already had COVID, then you have just the same immunity as people who get the vaccine. So if you've already had COVID, there's just no reason to put an untested substance into your body.
Well, I've heard that if you've already had COVID and you get the vaccine, that actually could harm you. Like that it's not good for you.
Well, why would you want a double dose of a bunch of stuff in your body?
They also say the single-dose Johnson & Johnson shot is 66% or around 66% effective at preventing the disease. And even when fully vaccinated people do get infected, they are less likely to spread COVID to others than an infected, unvaccinated person. But both of those findings, they say, support a return to normal life after vaccination. And that's what the propaganda has been hounding people about with this Ariana Grande song, Pimping Vaccination. But with thousands of people in the U.S. continuing to test positive for the virus every day, it's understandable that even vaccinated people remain skittish around others, particularly if they live with unvaccinated or immune-compromised people who are still at risk. The emergence of highly transmissible variants is also a reason for concern, which is also going to be a reason for more vaccines, because every variant that comes out, they're going to have to cook up another vaccine for those things. So if you thought you were done getting the vaccine after 2 doses, get ready, because later this year they may be telling you that it's time to come back for dose number 3 and dose number 4, just like they want you to come back for a flu vaccine every single year. And of course, who knows what's actually in these things. Throw in the psychological challenge of re-entering the outside world after a year of being told other people could be deadly, and it's little wonder that not everyone is eager to squeeze into a restaurant booth or a crowded flight. We'll post the rest of this propaganda garbage on our social media site. You can go follow us over at social.freetalklive.com and stop being so fearful and just get out there and live your lives. Don't listen to what the government's telling you. They don't care about you. They never have. We'll see you tomorrow night online in the meantime. freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR